So you're the CEO of DTEK, which is Ukraine's largest power utility. I wanted to catch up and find out how your business has been affected by the obvious instability, and your business more than many have been disrupted by what's going on in the East Ukraine, because you have many of your assets out there. Could you give me an update of operationally how the company's running as the largest utility? How has all the instability and fighting affected your business?
Yes, unfortunately, we've been affected at large scale by this conflict. And first of all, it's about our production assets. Probably you know that we produce about 40% of our coal on this territory, mostly anthracite type of coal, and there are 11 coal mines located in this territory, and
right.
Of course we've been affected. Then one power station located on this uncontrolled territory is also part of the problem today. Two power stations which are located on the border of this territory and under fire all the times. So it's another problem. So in general, if we're saying about our assets, first it was say real problem for us to continue operations with these assets.
Would you say the larger part of your assets are in or close to the disputed territories, or the smaller part?
No, I'd say smaller part. So in coal business, it's about 40% of our business. Because the largest coal company, Pavlograd Ugal, is located in Dnipropetrovsk region. In power generation, we have 11 power stations, 2 of them gas-fired here in Kiev, and 3 out of 11 are affected by this, this situation. And in power distribution, yes, I think that out of 5 distribution companies, 1 is Krymenergo, which was expropriated, Crimea, and 3 companies are in the Donetsk region. So,
and how has this affected you as a business? I mean, I mean, obviously, it seriously disrupted it, but I mean, has it pushed you into losses? Are you still making profits? Is it possible to operate normally or develop? What exactly is the situation?
No, mostly our coal business was affected by this situation. We produce about 15–20% of our capacity, as it was before all these events happened. In power generation, also the main problem is delivery of anthracite type of coal from this territory to our power stations. And in thermal power generation in Ukraine, which coal-fired stations, which consist of 14 power stations, half of them using anthracite type of coal. And this coal is 100% locked in this territory. So there is no anthracite type of coal on controlled territory. It means that all power stations using this coal experience this problem for a year already. And they're working at very low level of their capacity.
I see.
So this is the problem. But talking about financials, yes, we've been affected significantly by volume of coal production. But in addition to this, general drop in electricity consumption in the country.
So that's sort of balanced it out to some extent, yeah. The reduction in demand.
Our financial results, since we have a loan portfolio about $3 billion, mostly in dollar and euro denomination, and three times drop in exchange rate. Of course, it's had direct effect on our financial results.
Because a few months ago you restructured your Eurobond, didn't you?
Yeah.
And have you, with regards to raising money and borrowing money, I mean, basically the international capital markets are closed to you at the moment, aren't they? No one wants to touch Ukraine. Is that a problem for funding a business in terms of development or even day-to-day operations?
Yeah, unfortunately, all markets are closed for us, not only international, but local market also closed. You know that banking system is in really critical situation at the moment in Ukraine, so there is no way for us to get any fresh money to finance our business. On top of this, we have problems with tariff, which is loss-making for the last 4 months, and non-payment for electricity, which is about 20%. So in addition, only for 4 months, we have lost about $100 million in our power generation business, and underpayment around the same amount from energy market as a wholesale buyer of all electricity we produce. So, of course, our situation is very difficult to finance our working capital and to continue serving our debt. That's why we agreed with our bank lenders.
Who are all mainly international lenders, no?
3 of them are Russian banks, which is now in our portfolio we have about half Russian and international banks. So we agreed on general principle that for this year we are paying only 10% of redemption amount, but have 100% interest payment.
Okay.
For Eurobond, we have 2 issues, 2015, and we restructured it successfully, in my opinion, until 2018. So we continue serving our debt, paying interest, and hopefully by 2018 we can find a way how to repay or refinance our Eurobond, which is in total about more than $900 million. And for bank lenders, we in quite intensive discussion about so-called long-term solutions, so that we want to show them realistic picture of business development for the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and make a repayment of this debt realistic for the business, so that we save our business also.
But financially, I mean, you're managing to keep your head above water. I mean, that you can continue to service the debt following the restructuring, and that you can continue to generate enough working capital in order to produce the electricity.
Yes, so far, yes. With hope that our government will take actions to repay debt for electricity produced for the last 5 months.
So they haven't paid anything?
They paid only 80% of what should be paid. Right. But as I said, in money terms, it's about $100 million. And today, if all capital markets closed, it's a significant amount even for such size of business as we have. So what we discussed with the government is our tariff, which was loss-making, as I said, for the last 4 months. And then we are discussing with them injection of some cash to build up coal stocks for the next winter season.
Now, with the tariff, is that the loss-making in the last 4 months, is that because it was changed? In line with this IMF demands for new prices with tariffs?
Yeah, you know what's happening in Ukraine? Tariffs for end consumers like households and industries were raised significantly for the last 4 months. But all additional cash we get as a result of this tariff increase was sent to support nuclear power stations and gas-fired power stations. Basically, we haven't get any effect out of this increase of end consumers.
No profits yourself?
No, we have about 5% drop in our tariffs comparing with December last year in hryvnia terms, where at the same time we have inflation rate about 20–30% on different factors in our cost of production. So, in my personal opinion, the situation with thermal power generation is critical, and unfortunately, partly it's responsibility of national regulator and government why they continue such a policy in relation to thermal power generation. And what I'm saying to them is that I think it's time to talk about this not only in context of our tariff or our company, but as a general policy of the government in generation mix of the whole country. Because if your policy is to support nuclear, then you should take into account that we have 100% import of fuel for nuclear from Russia, mostly from Russia. We started testing fuel from US, but it doesn't help situation. In any case, we have 100% dependency on imported resources. The same as for gas.
Yes.
But coal is just our own resource.
Yes.
And your policy is to decrease volume of production of thermal power generation using Ukrainian coal. It's something strange for me.
And so they're pumping money or taking the extra money that they're getting from the higher tariffs to support nuclear. But with the gas in particular, isn't that just a question of just paying the bills? I mean, they're trying to get rid of this horrible deficit that Ukraine has because of the expense and the volumes of Russian gas that it's importing. But they're doing it by taking the money from the thermal power generators. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, they need to support nuclear because, as I just said, we are paying for fuel in dollars, and nuclear company was affected by exchange rate, so they increased their tariff by about 30% for the last 4 months, and it had to be financed something because their share in generation mix is about 50–60% today. That's why they send all this money to them.
What's your prognosis for the future? I mean, things are very unstable. I mean, the company, of course, without power, the country doesn't run. You need to get back on a financial stable platform. But having said that, the recent IMF tranches plus the US-backed Eurobond and the sale of the G3 license means that the government's finances are looking a bit better. The situation does seem to be stabilizing. Nevertheless, they're predicting at least 50% inflation for this year, and we have this debt negotiation deadline next week, so it doesn't seem that certain. Well, how do you see the rest of the year playing out and the future of the company going forward?
What is really important for us is that we have some kind of stabilization in exchange rate and in our banking system, comparing what was happening in February this year.
Because the banking sector is just frozen now.
Yeah, it is frozen, but we don't have such a fluctuation in exchange rate, and we are in a position to buy dollars at the moment because we needed to service our debt, and that was the problem 3 months ago. So it seems that we have some I don't know, hopefully not, but temporary stabilization on exchange rate on the market. I think that government finances is not also in bad shape at the moment, but the main problem for the government is come to agreement with creditors. You know that they have this dispute with this committee of creditors, and government have very, very strong and probably aggressive position towards them. Government is supported by IFIs in this negotiation with the creditors. I think this is something that should come to kind of resolution. Out of this, we can build our forecast for the next periods. But what is really worrying me is the industries and our economy, because we have about 22% of drop in production for the last year. Or we need to check it, but it's 2 digits number in drop in production levels means that. And it is also reflected in power consumption, as I said.
Do you think the collapse of industrial production has reached bottom, or do you think it's because the World Bank recently increased the forecast for the contraction of the economy this year from whatever it was, 5.5% to 9%, which would be even worse than last year. And in the first quarter, I think it was a 17%. So it does look like industry is just imploding in Ukraine, which obviously is going to affect your business directly.
Yeah, I hope that it's a bottom already, because probably Mariupol is the last place which can stop, and then we go to disaster.
Right.
Mariupol is the main exporter, and two steel companies working on the whole production chain. So I hope that situation in industrial production won't be worse than we have at the moment.
The last question concerns your relationship to the government. I mean, obviously, Poroshenko gave his State of the Nation speech, and that he's been talking about the de-oligarchization, if that's a word, of Ukraine. Your owner is System Capital Management, Mr. Akhmetov, who has felt some pressure, I think, from the government. And is this something that concerns you? I mean, for example, the economics minister just announced a big privatization program for later this year, and on that some significant stakes in Dnipro and Dnipropetrovsk, some assets that you currently are majority stakeholders in. Specifically with the privatization, I mean, what's going to happen there? Are you going to be allowed to participate? Do you want to participate in buying out the remaining government stakes in those energos?
Yeah, it's just news appeared 2 days ago. I've been quite surprised about timing because of two reasons. The first, it's very short period to be prepared for privatization in August, especially in summertime, and the second is, in general, I think that for government it's really difficult to get any real value for these assets, taking into account all factors happening in Ukraine. So, in my opinion, it should be done in a different way, like at least see some kind of stabilization of economy in Ukraine, and then meetings with investors show different attributes of transparent and open privatization, which is what is really important for everybody.
Take some time and then get a better price when the conditions are a bit more favorable, rather than rush it now.
Exactly. This is my opinion. But still, its decision, as far as I know, it should be confirmed by the Cabinet of Ministers, because it's preliminary planned by Property Fund. And again, if we stays with this initial plan, then we have internal discussion. It's difficult for me to answer this question. Taking into account our liquidity position, it's difficult for us to finance any participation in privatization. But again, since it's recent news, we need to have internal discussion on this. Of course, we're interested because we still believe in the future of these production companies and assets, and we already invested a lot to increase capitalization of these assets. And it's basically our business model that we know how to build up value of these assets. Of course, we're interested to get it, but not under current conditions.
And in more general, as I said, the pressure that's been put on so-called oligarchs. Have you felt any pressure from the government, or have they interfered or threatened you, or is there any threat to the company and its assets in terms of nationalization or undoing privatizations, going back into the past? That kind of thing.
No, to be honest, it's quite surprising to announce privatization and talk about reprivatization. So I think that it's two things which cannot happen at the same time. So I think that it was some kind of political slogan saying about nationalization, reprivatization. No, I wouldn't say that we experience any real pressure talking about our property rights or something like this. What we feel is a pressure of government policy in relation to thermal power generation, as I just explained. Yes, I would call it economic pressure, but probably it's not connected in any way to our property rights or something like this. So I hope that we can convince our government, and they already realize that either they make immediate actions so that we have enough time to be prepared for the next winter season, or the tech and thermal power generation in general cannot support our energy system like it was last winter.
Because the company's invested quite a lot into corporate governance. I remember coming down to Kiev and talking to you guys, and there was all this speculation about eventual IPO. I mean, that seems like another world now. But you have spent a lot of time invested in building up the company as a professional company, and it remains an important part of the infrastructure. But then really the government at the moment is sort of grasping around. I mean, it has this terrible energy problem to solve, and yet the chaos that's going on. Do you get the feeling they're just sort of grasping at straws, or is there some sort of strategy emerging, considered strategy? And don't you? What role in that would you play? I mean, you are the largest utility company in the country, aren't you?
You know, yes, probably some disputes, even public disputes with the Minister Timchenko. I was very surprised and pleased when he said that we managed to go through this winter season because of the tech. Mm-hmm. And it was a public statement, and I think it's some kind of assessment what we are doing. I think that it's some kind of conflicting position in appointments done in regulator and ministry. Mm. Young, not corrupted guys from investment community, and I very much support it. But at the same time, these people should have some kind of experience in energy as an industry, and some kind of experience as managers of large scale either companies or the whole industries. Mm-hmm. And lack of this experience was one of the major reasons why we have such situation since August last year. And I think that it was learning curve already for them, so that they have more understanding how to manage this industry, not on 1 month period, but look more strategically. And we were trying to support them with all our expertise, knowledge, and we try to use all other tools and arguments to say that this is not right decision, even if it's politically supported. So that's why my hope that the current situation can be changed, and what is more important for us is that real reforms started. Because what we are saying, there are 3 main conditions for us which can change the whole situation. Mm-hmm. The first one is regulation in energy sector. It should be harmonized with EU regulation, and we need to make real implementation of the law already adopted 2 years ago on new energy market. The second is price setting for coal, electricity, gas. Real market conditions should be in the market mechanism should be in price setting, because I don't want to continue convince our government that our coal we buy at one price and you set other price and your price is double or half of real production cost of state-owned coal companies, and this kind of discussion. We have different benchmarks and we can use different market tools to set objective price for coal or electricity or gas. And third is professional and independent regulator.
Which there isn't at the moment.
Which is not in a position that can cope with such challenges we have on the market at the moment. And it was one of requirements from IMF to adopt new law on regulator, where there are some conditions on professionalism of members, the independency, and all other main factors, so that we can have not politically discussion, not politically exposed from the side of regulator.
Final question: Are you optimistic about the near term, the future? I mean, Ukraine has gone through a crash that, for me, is comparable to what Russia went through in 1992. The whole system seems to be broken. But going forward, I mean, the government's talking about reforms. But do you see actually any evidence of action, of things changing, of at least a beginning of a direction out of this mess?
Yes, I would say that yes, it's real pressure from our international partners on the government about reforms. Mm-hmm. And I see new faces in the government, and we are really supportive of this. Mm-hmm. The question about speed of these reforms and implementation is that new law it's nothing if it's not implemented properly,
Yes.
if it's not starting to work. And on your question about my optimism, probably in such a situation in Ukraine, if I lose my optimism, I should leave this company.
Yes.
Otherwise, we cannot survive as a company.
Okay. Well, on that note, let's leave it there. I wish you all the best and hope your optimism is well founded.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.